Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday. We here at Ninjacators are incredibly excited to welcome you to our brand new weekly live event called Profits at Noon. These are 30 minutes that could make or save you 30 ticks. You'll receive our To the Tick trade levels. You'll discover institutional market traps that we're monitoring, and you can steal our trade setups and the setups of our favorite partners. We'll show you all the levels we're stalking for entry, and we'll steer you clear of all those traps I mentioned. And in addition to all this cool live analysis and these levels you can copy and these trades you can stalk, we also have a little special treat for you today called our Tool Spotlight. So welcome, everybody. I see we have people trickling in. Adrian, welcome. Chris, Dan, Daniel, Dave. I love it. Seeing a great crew here today. Guys, fire away in the chat if you can hear us, if you can see us, if we're looking good, if we're looking sharp, if we're sounding great. If we're not, just let us know. Awesome. So we're going to get started in just a few minutes. Again, this is our new live event called Profits at Noon. We are going live 3 days a week at noon Eastern time, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at noon Eastern. So again, if you're just jumping into the room, guys, welcome to Profits at Noon. Perry, Dan, thanks, guys. Looking and sounding good. Awesome. That's great. So in just a second here, I'm going to introduce you to our co-host, Richard Krugel. My name is Nathan. I've been working alongside Richard for the last 5 or so years. I've had the opportunity to learn a whole ton. Just watching this guy trade has been remarkable. He's informed a lot of my knowledge and a lot of my experience, and I can't wait for you guys to see what he has in store. So again, we're going to jump through our levels to lock, show you what we're monitoring, what's up for the week ahead, and we're also going to do our tool spotlight. So this week, our tool spotlight will be on our Elliott Wave Pro software. So you'll see Richard will have that loaded on his charts, and we'll use that throughout this presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the reins over to Richard, and he's going to get it started. And I'll circle back towards the end of this session. And we've got a little special coupon code, some other surprises in store for you. So without further ado, Richard, I hand the reins to you.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks as always for the great intro, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the Profits at Noon. Right, I think one thing Nathan didn't mention there, we're also going to be sending out a worksheet or / newsletter, however you want to call it, in the near future. Probably going to have that ready in a week or so. Don't have a real set date yet. So all these levels you're going to be seeing during my actual analysis today. Well, I'm going to be referencing that a lot during the live session. So the worksheets will be going out or be available about 15 minutes prior to market open. And then when we have the live session, like you're seeing today, I'll see where the markets are in relation to those levels. I also mentioned during the worksheet the economic news events to look out for, as well as a bit of a game plan for the morning session. Then we'll do the afternoon session with the analysis and also give a bit of a game plan for the remaining of the afternoon. All right, before we get into the charts, as always, guys, just a quick reminder that all information in this video is provided for informational purposes only, and it's not an offer or a recommendation to trade future stocks, options, or Forex. Right, if this is your first time with us here today, I go through the ES, the NASDAQ, the WIME, the Russell, gold, and crude oil. And as always, guys, if you've got any questions, just do pop them there in the chat box, and towards the end, I'll see if we can get to all of them. Right, first off, the ES. Now, before I get into the actual analysis, let's quickly run through what all these lines are. Now, these are called the levels to lock lines. Very important lines that I watch during my time. I'm here situated in Cape Town, so it makes a perfect opportunity for our US customers, wherever you are in the world, that when you actually receive the update for in the worksheet prior to market open, that are already formulated sort of a game plan. Now, these levels to lock, very simply, we got these blue lines, got this orange one, you probably can't see that properly here, and then S1, S2, S3. Your normal run-of-the-mill pivot lines, resistance on the top in blue, and support in red towards the bottom with that central pivot point there. That's based on intraday data. And then I've got also these dashed lines you see on the top here, sort of a bit of a dirty brown look to it. And we got these dashed blue lines toward the bottom. Now, these are projected range highs and lows, and it's a proprietary indicator we use here at Ninjacators. Very cool indicator to have based on previous days' volatility. and it really acts as a great magnet for price, especially when you see prices start breaking above your resistance lines or whatever direction you think the market might be heading. To a very high degree, prices actually reach these levels. Now, they can either be used as targets, and you'll see during my analysis how I actually use them, or they act as support and resistance to a very, very high degree. So please join us again on Wednesday will be our next Profits at Noon, and Thursday again. And then we'll do a little short recap to see where price actually moved towards when I actually gave you the analysis part of things. Now, you can see the remnants of these projected ranges, and this was for last week, Thursday, when we did our last recording live session. This red line over here was an S1 on that day. I had to go and copy those levels and actually paste it in here. And that was the pivot level on that day. Now, when the session started, we were looking at the ES, and I was saying that, and price was already trading a little bit below that pivot point, which was at around about 4,144, give or take. And I was saying that we could potentially see a reach or decline towards S1, which was this line over here, which was at that stage of 4,109, give or take. Again, I don't have that actually, the price levels in there. I just dropped them in there. And you can really clearly see how well price was drawn towards that projected range low, and also price reaching that projected range 2 low, which is just a standard deviation, or sorry, projected range deviation 1, a deviation of the lower range, or sorry, the first range. And this is pretty much how we do things here. I want to see where price is trading during the morning session in relation to a pivot point. And then I want to see when candles, and I'm looking at a 4-hour chart, how price is reacting to those pivot points in this case, and where price could potentially then move towards. So a very good indication of how we do use this. And now fast forward to today, we've seen during the overnight session, the price was really hovering around about the pivot point here, had no issue actually reaching R1, which was today at 4,115, already surpassed R2 at 4,131, and projected range high at 4,146 and 3/4, very, very nearly reached. So I still expect that to potentially be reached. Now, also, I don't just look at levels and suck things up out of the air where I think things might go. I also look at price action. And I've been saying this since last week's session. And when was this sort of last week, Monday, that we had this 3-wave decline after that very strong move, obviously, that we've been seeing higher. It started last year, October, already on the ES and the major indices. But anyways, a bit of price structure here told me we had an A, a B, a C. Now, I thought that might have been it, end of a correction. But what happened instead, I think it was during the, what was this, on the 7th, price made a 5-wave decline. Now, this already gave me a bit of a clue that if we were going to see some sort of a corrective move higher, that I'm potentially going to expect another decline to the downside. Now, I've also been saying, and I'm just giving you a bit of a recap here, guys, is that whatever happened here during that time, and obviously it did work out that price moved lower, that I was going to treat this as corrective in nature, with the next leg higher, potentially taking ES to new highs for this here. Now, that being said, we had a beautiful 5-wave decline here, a bit overlapping, which is perfectly fine. It happens a lot during corrections. And I was saying if price were to reverse lower again after a bounce, then we could potentially see another 5 waves. Now, this here wasn't a picture perfect, clear 5-wave decline, if you see what I'm saying here. This looks a lot like, at least from the 4 hours perspective, like a 1, a 2, a 3. Now, this could potentially be a 4th wave bounce with another wave lower, and then this entire thing ends, and then we see another move to the upside. That being said, and this is where I'm going to look at our Elliott Wave Pro software, which I'll explain a bit better in just a short while. But you'll see these buttons. It's actually we got the Elliott Wave Pro loaded here. I'm looking at a 60-minute time frame, and we've got it loaded for the ES and all the other markets we're going to be looking at. Now, what it does is automatically, very quickly, I'll explain, labels these wave formats for you automatically. It gives you target zones where impulse waves might move towards, as well as give you sort of resistance or support zones where corrections might end. So these are these zones over here. Now, what I really wanted to say here is now this high here is that high over here. Remember, and I said clear 5 waves down. I could count that, and I think the software did a fantastic job at counting that as well. A 1, 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. We had that strong bounce to the upside. Now, where on the 4-hour chart, it just looks like 3 waves, the Elliott wave software on a 60-minute, which is also why it's important to look at multiple time frames, already counted a 5-wave decline. So that could have been, that could have been it, guys. That could have been just in the bigger picture, A, B, C, zigzag corrective move. And now we're seeing the next wave up. Now it's labeling this as an A. I won't pay too much attention to that. Was more focused or interested in what this entire move all the way down into end of last week was labeled as. And this could have very well have been the end of a correction. Now, again, I'll look at the Elliott Wave Pro software in a bit more detail. And I had to just explain a little bit more in detail what these lines are. You know, I won't do it too much on the NQ and the YM and the remaining of the stuff, just to bring you up to speed as to what you're actually looking at here on the chart. Now, my thinking was earlier today, and obviously this is now in hindsight for you guys, that if we see a break and a close above R1, that we potentially see R2 and that projected range high being met. Now, price already is there. I would actually like to see a close above this projected range high today, either today or tomorrow, to really enforce the idea that a correction already ended over here, right? Because in the back of my mind, single zigzags are your most common corrections. Lots of people just call them ABCs. Now, let's say we find resistance here. I'm completely wrong that this was the end of a correction, and we actually start seeing another decline here. Then I'll switch to the next corrective move in my mind that I next would switch to is what we call a WXY, which is a double zigzag, 2 ABCs after each other. But that's getting a little bit too far ahead of things. I would say most of these targets has been hit, in my opinion. Like I said, still thinking we got upside potential here. Now, very cautiously, tomorrow we got the core CPI data coming out. We also have the year CPI figures year on year coming out. And as you all know, during last year with inflation and the Fed raising hikes, hiking rates is what I want to say. You know, there was a lot of fear in the market. Now, inflation has sort of been declining a little bit, and if these figures come out tomorrow and shows another decline, then I think that would even strengthen the idea that this correction already moved it, and we could probably see prices head back towards 4,208, where these yearly highs for this year's highs were already. That being said, we might see sideways action into that at 8:30 a.m. EST tomorrow, and then according, I'm going to be flat by then. I really do not want to be in the markets and just see how price reacts on the indices and even on gold. We're going to have a look at gold a little bit later when that data comes out. And then, you know, if it does for some reason show a little bit of a creep up in the inflation, then that double zigzag pattern that I've been talking about, which is not off the table just yet, might become a reality. So yeah, if we were sort of trading around about here currently during the session, then I would have normally said a break above and close R1, it brings your R2 into range. And then your projected range high, currently at 4,146.75 would also be a decent target to aim for, but most of that move's already happened. All right, NQ, similar thing. Obviously, very similar price structure, obviously a different indice. Also potentially an ABC that we've seen to the downside. Again, also very strong move leading up to during this morning overnight session to the upside, and now into this afternoon. Price already surpassing R1 at 12,447, and R2 already being reached at, or very close to at 12,553. Might still reach that, and projected range high above that at 12,571.5. So again, you might want to go review this video afterwards. If you are subscribed to the Profits at Noon, you should get a video transcript of the actual session, and maybe just use that. And that normally comes out about 10, 15, 20 minutes after the actual recording, and maybe go mark out these levels on your chart and then see if price would actually reach them or not. Again, very strong moves you've already been seeing here. Again, if price was sort of hovering here with a close above that level, and then I would have said, yeah, decent chance we can see another move up, but potentially most of the moves already happened for today, and then maybe things will quiet down leading up to tomorrow's economic news event, the CPI core figures coming out. Right, on the NQ, very similar to the ES from the Elliott Wave Pro perspective, all labeled slightly different here. Again, looking here at a 60-minute chart, I'm actually signing with the labeling that actually happened on the ES, but it kind of been labeling it as a 1, a 2, a 3, and it was going to say that it might be a 4 and then another move to the downside. You see, it also gives these invalidation levels. So if price were to break an invalidation level, at that stage, you would then switch to, let's say, a bullish count. Again, I'll go over the settings in just a moment. But similar to what I've seen on or shown on the ES, also think that it potentially had a correction that potentially already ended. All right, so not really too much of a difference there on the Elliott Wave side from a bigger perspective. Let's move on to the YM. The YM's been incredibly whippy since sort of the end of Jan. Very, very large range, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm not even going to look at the Elliott Wave count of this because it will not make sense whatsoever. So it's a market I've been completely on the sidelines with for a while now. Just very simply, I would like to see a break and a close above these previous highs over here. That's currently around about 3,400. No, sorry, 34,300 dealing with the YM here. If that does happen, where that happens today or tomorrow, or whatever happened this week, we'll have to see where those updated resistance lines as well as those projected highs would be at that stage. Probably only going to be able to look at that on Wednesday. But a market that I'm completely not looking at the moment, it's just some sort of a nasty correction or whatever the case might be. Right, so nothing too much to say on the YM. Again, I'm not going to show you the labeling there on this messy price action. Russell, on the other hand, so let's look at the Russell. Here's another good example of what we looked at last week, Thursday, this being our pivot point on that day. Again, Russell sort of hovering when we did our Profits at Noon session around about just below the pivot point level, and those targets that we mentioned was easily reached. This case R1, price even went to not R2, but the projected low deviation number 1, way down over here at 1,920. Found support now during the overnight session, been sort of again similar to the ES Nasdaq, hovering there by the pivot point and shot back up to the upside. Year 2, potentially a bit of a clearer corrective structure, potentially an A, a B, and a C that already ended. Again, I'm also going to just hang back a little bit on, like I said, most of the indices, and really would like to see how the markets react when the CPI data comes out tomorrow. But looks like we're still going to have a strong move back to the upside, or not back to the upside, a continuation to the upside for the day. I think if we get a close above R2, then that should bring in 1,954 spot 2 there, where our projected range high is for the day. Again, these levels really act as magnets really well. Again, also based on the previous day's volatility. Let's have a look at what the Russell's telling us from the Elliott Wave perspective. Again, I'm only looking at a 60-minute chart here, and I'm only looking at the recent swings here. Now, it's labeled this also a little differently. My opinion, now if I were to switch this to a much larger time frame, it would probably have done this for us, similar to what I've shown you on the ES. So it's all a matter of also using a bit of a human thinking, these brain cells you have up here, in combination with the Elliott wave tool to figure out, is it labeling correctly? If you've got some basic understanding of Elliott wave analysis, then the tool really does all the heavy lifting for you and, you know, does all the labeling automatic. But it does from time to time require that you look at the structure and, let's say, of a impulsive wave or a corrective structure where it's actually labeling according to those guidelines that you know. All right, let's go to gold. Gold. This was since the 5th of February. Price start running into a sideways movement. I'm actually bearish gold all the way down here to about 1840. I think there's still space for gold to move lower. Price been stuck here in a range, and during the last week's session, I was saying that if we see a break and a close above this line to the upside, 1898, or break and a close below 1874, spot 8, that would probably give us the direction for the near term. So now we only got a break below that area last week. When was this? Thursday. Again, these slides, we had a pivot point, and this is a very good example of how these pivot points can give you a really good indication of where to set targets, especially if you use it in combination with pattern analysis. Now, prior to this sideways movement here, gold moved strongly lower, right? And since we started this profits at noon service, there was also these patterns suggesting that we might be getting into an important high. Price moved strongly lower, start moving sideways, and I'm already digressing what I wanted to say here. During Thursday's session, price just made a high in the previous candle. And very interestingly, it did it so in a channel formation, or came very close towards it. Now, corrective patterns typically trace out in channels. And I was saying at that stage that if it was going to reverse lower and fell to close above that level, again, I'm not trying to say I was cool that this and this and this happened. I'm just trying to bring you up to speed of what I'm looking at, and, you know, in real time, give you my thoughts of what I'm thinking is happening, even according to what happened prior to where we actually, or the market's currently trading. And my thoughts was that if this was the end of a correction, there was potentially an ABCX, another ABC to the upside, and that if price were to break and close below that pivot point on the day, that we could easily see a flush towards R1, which at that stage was about 1880, and it reached the projected low at 1872. Right, so that should give you now, I think, a really good idea of how I use pattern analysis, Elliott wave a little bit, and just look at price structure in relation to these levels to locta, as we call them. So during the overnight session, again, sort of running sideways a little bit, a bit of whippy sort of sideways price action. Even here, we had a bit of a sideways move since the end of last week, and we now had a close below that. My expectation, like I said, for some time now is that I still think that gold can move lower. We'll obviously have to recap things on Wednesday, but price easily reached 1,865.4. S2 as at 1,854, and that projected range low at 1,849. Now, I'm not saying that these ranges will be hit today. Like I said, I'm very cautious going into tomorrow's CPI data. It's going to be released 8:30 a.m. EST. So, you know, markets tend to make their moves a little bit beforehand, and then you have, you know, investors and traders alike sort of hanging on the sideways, and it's not uncommon to see the sideways price action until that actually happens. So again, today's sort of just a little bit of a catch up that you guys can understand what I'm looking at, how I look at these levels, and we'll see how things play out tomorrow, and then have a better, clearer idea of what to expect for the remainder of the week when we take things back on or do the other session on Wednesday again. All right, on gold's Elliott wave side of things, again, the sideways price action, labeled this as a ABC, and then another ABC to the upside, which came very close to a zone where expected a final wave to end. And this green zone over here was a corrective zone where you'll typically expect a correction to end. In this case, it thought it was a second wave correction, but again, now it's just using a little bit of a different starting point. But I think you do get the idea that these zones can really be helpful to very quickly on the fly, especially looking at multiple markets and multiple timeframes, determine where corrections might end, the zones that they typically retrace towards, and we expect potential impulse waves to move towards as well, or end. All right. So on gold, like I said, cautiously bearish for today. Really a matter of seeing what's going to happen with tomorrow's core CPI numbers. And lastly, this brings us to crude oil. Crude oil, when it was beginning of Feb, I was saying we're probably seeing a very oversold conditions. In the bigger picture, we're only looking at a very small snippet on the bigger picture of crude oil. Still bearish. I'm seeing this move that we're seeing to the upside currently as corrective in nature, i.e. that we might still see something like this and maybe even a much higher move, but being corrective in the overall picture. That being said, quickly, if you look at Thursday's levels again, similar thing. We expected a break and close below the pivot point, which at that stage was about 78. Very quick move that we had towards our S1, sorry, and S2. Price in this instance didn't reach our projected range low. Run sideways and has since moved back IM. So a little bit different than the others. Crude oil actually opened, traded a little bit below pivot point, closed above it. I like seeing closes above these pivot points, and according to that direction, and obviously again with your price structure and your general directional bias, formulate an idea of where price might move towards. So I think these previous highs set last week Friday, what's this, around about 80.30, let's get that high exactly, 80.33, probably within reach very soon today. And then we got R1 at 80.90 and a projected range high at 81.19, which could also very easily be reached. So guys been trading crude oil can really run and make up these miles or ranges very, very easily. That being said, I am expecting at some stage that this move will stop, getting deeper correction, and then another move to the upside. Again, don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. We'll have to recap things on Wednesday and see where things stand with that. All right. Now, that's sort of the analysis side. I'm going to go through the Elliott Wave Pro here for you guys, go through the settings. Let's use that ES, a beautiful example. And I'll just quickly explain what all these zones are for you. Again, this
Hey, Richard.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut in. I think this might just be an opportune time. We had a question we were sitting on.
Yeah, no worries.
And I think this would be a great time to launch into it.
Go
So
for it.
Perry just wanted to know, does the software project the hypothetical extension to compare and contrast against the support and resistance levels?
So the proprietary tool that we have is based on a previous day's volatility, and it also then creates those standard deviations for you. Now, they are set on the day that you wake up, for example. So if you woke up, let's say this morning, you're in the US, these ranges would be there for you automatically. All right. I do think, Nathan, you do have a link to that tool, I believe.
Yes,
so I think
absolutely.
maybe if you can drop that, that sort of gives you a very big overview of what it is, the calculations used, and as well as a lot of examples. I use this very often, but like I said, there will be instances where these levels are hit, where they're not hit. But very importantly, that's why obviously hopefully you're coming to view my analysis today, is that I have to decide what the bias is. What is the am I dealing with a correction? Potentially, I might obviously be wrong in some instances. Am I dealing with start of a new trend, et cetera, and then also looking at where price is trading in relation to your normal run-of-the-mill pivot points, the R1 and S1 levels that should be available as a standard indicator on NinjaTrader 8. Then I formulate normally that with direction, if price were to break above that, that we can get those moves into those projected range highs and lows. Now, obviously, sometimes you're going to have not as volatile sessions as the previous day's session, for example. So these projected ranges might be pretty, far off, and price might not actually reach them. So I think just to answer your question properly, I think it's probably going to be better for you to go have a look at that link if Nathan does have it there for you, and then maybe just go check it out, and then you can read that in your free time.
Sure. I went ahead and shared that link, Richard, and everybody here, just so you're aware. And we've also included our exclusive coupon code to knock off 20% of the price instantly. So you guys won't find that coupon code anywhere else. It's exclusive to this Profits at Noon session. Grab it, hang on to it, use it, because it's not going to be up forever either. But after Richard does a little more on chart demonstration here, we'll just go back. We'll take a look at that page on our website together, go through some of the features, and I'll show you that coupon code one more time. But again, that link is available in the chat.
Cool. All right, I'm going to come back to the ES here, and you've seen I probably pushed a button here. Now, if I to expand this here, this is the Elliott Wave Pro tool to the side here. There's settings, a drop-down menu. You can set your swing straight settings to big. There's a drop-down menu there, small, very big. And what it basically means is if you're on smaller time frames, you probably want to have a setting that is maybe not too small, because it'll be too much noise, too much labeling going on. On a 60-minute chart, I like using the big setting, and that basically just controls the, all of these little zigzags in between. Actually doesn't not get, how can I say, excluded in the actual analysis or in the tool's labeling, but it just makes your charts a little bit less cluttered. All right. But what I really want to get down into here is the customization of this tool. You'll see here that you've got these tabs: wave 2s, wave 3s, wave 4s, wave 5s, and then corrective moves. Now, generally, when you think you're dealing with a new move to the upside, what the software will do, and this is a good example, is start labeling it as, let's say, a 1. Now, let's say you start getting a decline. What it will automatically do is it will create you a zone where you believe a wave 2, or the software thinks a wave 2 might end. Sorry, guys, my throat's very, very dry here. Now, these zones, you can actually change the inputs there. Sorry, guys. I sit this whole morning without talking to someone, and then I talk to you guys and I start coughing.
That's how it usually works out.
Anyway, these zones is where completely customizable. You can, for example, use a 61.8 or 78.6 retracement zone. Again, it will also have this marker where wave 2 should not penetrate the start of what you assumed was a wave 1. If that zone does, for example, get penetrated, or that level invalidation line, then it will recalculate its calculations and come up with a different type of labeling. Wave 3s, your impulse waves after wave 1, if you guys are familiar with Elliott wave analysis, so you potentially have an A, a B, a C, or combination thereof. Once you think that a second wave has ended, again, on second wave, it will create those zones for you. And here's a good example of that, actually. It labeled it as a 1. It started labeling it as a 2, a 2A, a 2B, and then when price moved low, it created the zone. You see the zone over here? That's your second wave zone that you can actually change 50% retracement towards 61.8. So that'll be a 50% retracement of this move to the upside and a 61.8 retracement there. And those are the zones that you expect price to move in. And once you see a reaction, whatever your entry conditions might be, reversal candlestick patterns, moving average crossovers, or whatever it is you're looking at, then that's your entry signal. So on third waves, it's got a minimum projected range of 112.8. And the minimum zone projection here is at 161.8. You see the zone over here, and 200%. 200% on its own is not a Fibonacci number, but you can go change this according to what you believe. If you're dealing with a strong strain, for example, you might want to up that zone a little bit. You can do that on the fly. So again, beautifully see how a third wave pushed right into that zone. So you could expect profit taking potentially taking place, or potentially set your targets at those areas. Again, wave 4s, once you got a 1 or 2, you got to think you got a third wave, and let's say start getting a pullback, then it will automatically start labeling it as that you're potentially busy with a wave 4, and also give those zones. Against these, these ratios here, completely customizable according to your own liking, and then according to elite wave analysis, wave 4 should not penetrate the area of wave 1. Here we give it a little bit of a leeway that comes as default. I'm pretty strict with that. I have this set at 0. I don't want to see an overlap, because if that does happen, that's my invalidation line. And this is a good example of that. Price eventually moved back into this area over here, where wave 1 was labeled. So it already moved into invalidation level. And what that did then was invalidated this idea that this is a 4th wave correction, and started labeling it as a different decline. Again, wave 4s, those are your projected ranges highs, 61.8, 86.6, with a minimum excursion of 61.8 for a wave 5 to the upside. Now, very simply, those are just quickly the settings that you can expect. You can collapse that again, it makes it a bit smaller. And if the one thing you do need to do from your side is, let's say you're seeing sequences of higher highs, higher lows, that might indicate that you're dealing with a bullish scenario, you can then just go and click this, right click. You see it's on green at the moment, and it will label the bullish side of things for you. Whereas you think you're dealing with a, let's say, correction, or start of a new trend to the downside, you can remove the bullish count and add the bearish count, and it would then label that for you to the downside. All right, and this actually gives a very nice indication of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially an A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, an A, B, C is what I showed you on the 4-hour chart there. So sort of like falls in sort of with my expectation that we might be done with a correction, but like I said, strange things can happen with the markets. I'm really just waiting to see what's going to happen with tomorrow's CPI data. So that very quickly is the elite wave tool. Very useful, all time frames. I've even done a whole I think about half an hour each video training set on that, where I actually trade this live market conditions, and how I like using it with my settings. So if you do want to check this out, I think Nathan will take over the reins in just a while, and then go have a look at it. And like I said, it comes really good educational material there, as well as that 4-part video series I did using this in live trading conditions. Before you go on, Nathan, like I said, normally after the analysis, I'll give you a quick rundown of what I expect for the remainder afternoon. But with these prices already extended, already reaching these targets, not much to say until Wednesday session. So that's pretty much what you can expect on Wednesday, again, going through the same sort of similar things. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the analysis. Maybe not too much to show you today, just because I'm waiting for tomorrow's CPI data. But we'll come back on Wednesday again. And I think the more you see this, you'll more understand how well these projections work, as well as the analysis side and how everything ties in together.
Sure.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And that's it from my side.
Well, Wednesday should be a great session. So
yeah,
guys, everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Richard, for the analysis, for the presentation, for sharing this tool suite with us. Really just remarkable stuff. We're going to go a little deeper into the Elliott Wave Pro in just a second here. But I do want to remind you guys, we have a coupon code that is active for today. It is exclusive to Profits at Noon. You guys are the only ones seeing this. We are not advertising it anywhere else. So grab that coupon code out of the chat, Spotlight 20, all one word, and then follow that link. It'll take you right into the shop, and it'll knock 20% off the price of the Elliott Wave Pro instantly. Yep. Now, again, that coupon code is not going to be around forever, so we do encourage you to take advantage of it soon. But yeah, in addition to this cool live analysis, in addition to these levels to lock, we're also going to do our best to have cool surprises for you at all of these sessions, whether it's a coupon code just sharing maybe a cool new live event or a workshop we're hosting, or occasionally even some of our partners who may have some things to offer us, things of value and things that could, ultimately steer your trading day in the right direction, which is our ultimate goal here. Is we want you here with us, dodging the bombs, and looking out for the next big move.
Absolutely.
But really quickly, before we jump into this, I'm going to take over that screen share. But Gio did have one question about that Elliott Wave software, Richard. And I think
I do see that.
it could be circumstantial. Yeah. When does the wave number print?
All right. So, for example, ES being a really good example here. If you see that I've had that bearish move here labeled. Now, obviously, you have to take into account what you're thinking might be happening in the bigger picture. I was thinking potentially dealing with a corrective wave. Now, if you're also familiar with single zigzags, you need to see 5 waves, 5 waves. Now, when you start seeing a powerful move back up like this, right, you have to go and switch. Let's say, what does the bullish side of things tell me? And what it will do is already start labeling this wave 1 for you. But it won't label wave 2 until certain conditions are met, when it's already start thinking, listen, you're seeing lower lows and lower lows on the chart that you're actually trading from, the candlesticks chart, the time setting that you have on there. In this case, the 60-minute. So let's say we're going to start seeing a move to the downside. Then it automatically would start thinking and dealing with a wave A over 2, maybe a wave B over 2, maybe a wave C over 2. Sometimes you just get one directional move. We see this a lot with volatility, but what it will do, it already start before price reaches an area, it will create those zones for you for where you can expect a potential wave 2 to end. Again, you can then change those settings and change that zone according to which FIB settings you want to be using. So it does this on the fly, but it does need a little bit of human input here. There's also some basic guidelines that I've included during the live trading sessions that come with the actual Elliott Wave Pro tool. And I'm just like trading end of wave 2s, take a chance and see if we can get involved in wave 3s, impulse waves. And also look at certain reversal candlestick patterns and those type of things. So, it just takes a lot of the heavy lifting off. I sometimes look at 3, 4, 5 charts of different markets, depends on how experienced you might be. And then very quickly at a glance, do my homework in the morning. I've got this bias. Where's price maybe according to other indicators that I follow, or these levels? And what is Elliott Wave Pro telling me? And then just have, a broad sort of an idea of where things are when I start my trading day. And then when these areas are hit, rather than staring at them the whole time, you can see I just go and switch over and look at my entry conditions, and then identify that immediately as a profitable trade. Well, hopefully a profitable trading opportunity, if it makes sense.
Ideally, yeah. Excellent. Great. Well, I appreciate that, Richard. And it looks like we have a couple more questions. So I'm going to pop this screen share real quick. We'll go through some of this stuff together. We'll address some of these questions along the way. So just let me know if you're seeing this, if this looks good. You should be seeing the Elliott Wave Pro here on our storefront. So in addition to just showing you a couple of the features, what's included in this bundle, I was going to quickly show you this coupon in action. So let me get the chat going here too, to make sure I get you guys questions. Okay, awesome. So basically here you see the breakdown, everything that's included. Now I see someone did mention Elliott Wave is over my head. And look, there's a lot of traders we've spoken to that have been in this predicament. I mean, some people just look at it and walk away. So the entire idea behind developing this software suite and optimizing it is for you to hit the ground running. And so that's what all these resources are for. This is a quick start package. It's to alleviate you of all the stress and all the BS that can come with obsessing over your wave counts. So within this bundle, You are getting the invalidation line tool suite, the price zones tool suite, our NinjaTrader Elliott Wave tutorial, the quick start videos and PDF guides, which is huge. And then of course, our big bonus, the Elliott Wave chart templates. So there's a lot of ways to simplify this, to have actionable steps that you can take to start using this software to start trading with it. And then again, of course, it is backed by our 100% satisfaction, love it or replace it guarantee. So if you don't absolutely love it, you just reach out to us and we figure out something you do, and we work that out with you. So again, just going to show you that coupon really quick. We'll jump back into some of these questions. But once you pop this bad boy in your cart, you just come over here, pop in your coupon code from today's session. And you can see I already have it applied. So it's not going to let me cheat. You can't use it twice to get 40%. We've verified. But you can see right here that 20%, it takes off basically 180 bucks, just comes off the total instantly. So again, that coupon code not going to be around forever, only available to you guys in this session today. So I'll back out just so we can have this on the screen, and we'll take a look at a couple of these other questions. Sergio, it looks like Sergio's already had the Elliott Wave Pro, but encountered some bugs, which is, is certainly something that we're always keeping an eye out for and something we're always working on. And you can ask Richard. Richard and I, just going through this software for the last month or so, there were a couple little things that, we reported and had fixed ourselves. So it is something we're constantly optimizing. We're thriving to not only improve and make our tools better, but also through feedback, through our great customer base, we're able to identify any potential bugs and address those in a very timely manner.
Can I just butt in there quickly, Nathan?
Sure.
When I had to do this live trading sessions to show you, I used some of the tools we have here at Ninjacators, Sergio. The main bug that we came across was that if you open tabs in the bottom here, and let's say you have an indicator suite or something else open on one tab, but on the same window, you open another tab and you've got Elliott Wave Pro loaded on there, that we start running into issues. And to sort that out, we've sent that to the development team. They're having a look at it. But since I've not been using multiple tabs, with one tab, you got different indicators on, and another tab, you have your Elliott Wave Pro to sort of like fix all the bugs. I've had absolutely no problem besides that, to be dead honest. But that being said, as always, just reach out to support. There's always an answer to this. It's not that it cannot be used because of bugs. There's always some sort of an issue somewhere, and everyone's use case is unique, believe me. So I'm sitting here in South Africa, sitting in a different time zone. I had issues with these projected levels, for example, which has now been sorted out because I'm probably the first user in South Africa, something to do with the time zone difference and all that sort of stuff. So our team does work on this. We do take it seriously if you do have any issues. So yeah, please just reach out to support again, open a ticket there, and then we'll see if we can help you out.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And what Richard said is absolutely right. Feel free to reach out to us. Also, I encourage you to use that phone number that's on the website, and you'll see that at the top here. That's the fastest way to get in touch with us instantly. And Sergio, if you've had any ongoing issue with that, I would encourage you in your communication with our support to mention Richard and myself, mention this session, so that we have attention to it as well. Yeah, we'll be happy to take a look and make sure you're completely sorted.
Sergio, maybe what I would like you to do is, I don't know if you got the capability to record a little video, screen recording software or anything like that. Show me what is the bug. Show me your setup. Maybe I can have a look at that, and I can maybe very quickly, according to what the problems I had, and it's like, maybe this is the issue, and get back to you, or pass it on to support. But like I said, really willing to help you over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you're joining us for these sessions, again, guys, we are live 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at noon. So you'll always know where to find us here if you want to jump into these sessions with us. Beyond that, I would say reaching out in between. Definitely recommend, if you're contacting with our support or on the horn with them at all, if you go ahead and let them know you're in communication with us, they'll bring it to our attention as well. So, but again, where we'll be 3 days a week too. So you can't lose track of us, fortunately. But yeah, happy to help any way we can. And David had a great question here, and this is actually something we're working on, David. If we're going to email the level numbers each day. So we will have recaps of these sessions, the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday noon sessions. In addition to that, something we are working on is a complimentary, I shouldn't say complimentary in the sense that it will complement the analysis. There will be a small fee, but what we call our Levels to Lock newsletter, that's something we're working on now. So if you ever miss a session, or if on an off day and you want to see where we're at, or you just need to see those numbers quickly to see what we're thinking or what we're planning, we are going to make that available to you guys for a very small fee. It will be nothing exorbitant. So we hope to launch that very soon, and you'll be able to follow along all week in addition to these live sessions. So that's something very much to look forward to. We'll keep you in the loop on that as these sessions progress, and as you guys continue to join us. But again, today, before we wrap up, we want to thank you again for joining us for this session of Profits at Noon. Richard and I are very grateful for you spending our time for us. Again, my name is Nate. Some of you, most of you may already know Richard from his Morning Bell sessions, but Richard always does a great job. It's just very fascinating to see his viewpoint on the markets and where we're headed. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Richard, as always, for the great work that you do. We will be back again Wednesday at noon. We'll have another surprise in store for you, in addition to the Levels to Lock and in addition to the analysis. So be sure to join us again this coming Wednesday. And then today, I just want to harp on this one more time. You saw Richard using the Elliott Wave Pro as part of our tool spotlight today. So one of the cool things we wanted to do today was just to give you that exclusive coupon code. So you can see that's still in the chat. I will paste it one more time before we go. You've got the link, takes you right to the storefront. And again, this coupon code, we'll just take one more look. Once you add it to the cart, just apply that coupon code, which is Spotlight 20, all one word. It'll knock off about $180 off the price of this bad boy instantly. So again, coupon code, not going to last forever. You guys are the only ones to have it, so I encourage you to use it. Very cool. Well, I appreciate all of you guys so much. And Richard, unless you had any additional parting wisdom for us, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up, and we'll see you all again on Wednesday.
That's it from our side. Thanks very much, guys, and have a fantastic one. See you on Wednesday.
Cool. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.